video, I'm going to talk about how to create an animated GIF control that can be imported into Archestra. I got this idea from a blog I was reading, and they had just a real simple, they had used a user control just to create a simple interface so they pull in one GIF and that was it. So what I want to do is build on that and create a GIF animator that had multiple GIFs that could be chosen based on a custom property. So I'm going to start by creating a new project. And I have Visual Studio 2017 open. Go to create new project. And of course I have my Windows Control Library class, which I have another video on this. If you aren't sure, if you don't have this in your Visual Studio IDE, you'll have to add one. But once I have that, so I click on that, and then I'm going to rename it to Tutorial GIF Animator. And I'm going to say okie doke. And we start out with a blank screen here. So there's basically the next thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this because it comes in by default as just user control 1. I want to rename that to my name again. This is Tutorial GIF. And this can be anything you want. I'm just doing this for our tutorial. Tutorial GIF Animator. Yes. And now if I click on the designer, okay, that gives me that code. Now click here, and there, okay, this space is my new user control. So the very next thing we can do is we're going to open this up. We're going to add one control, the picture box. Okay. Now we're going to make this a little different size, and I'm going to leave myself a little room in here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Properties with the picture box selected, and I'm going to rename it to PBX GIF. Now it's time to start working on the code. So we'll go to the code, click View Code. All right, and I know I'm going to need to add some more libraries, and I'll show you those in a sec. Okay, so these using declarations are libraries that we're going to need in our animator, and we need 3 additional ones. We need System IO Reflection, System IO. In addition to System Reflection and System IO, which are Windows libraries, we're also going to need the control itself because we need to get access to the properties of the control for our code. So now having done that, we can actually access the properties, and I'll show you that becomes important later on. And the first thing I always like to do in a new project is put a block of code, it's a comment, to describe the project. So I'm going to paste in this block which I've already created previously, and I'm going to call it the tutorial GIF Animator. And you see it's a class that demonstrates a custom control to display a GIF in Archestra. I'm the author. This is the usage for display of animated GIFs and their revision history. Now this is my initial creation. Obviously this is coming from a project that I've created earlier for the same thing, but this one will be version 1. Today's date is the 19th. So now we're set. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our initialization code. So I'm going to create a couple of user control level variables, GIF option and GIF dialog. GIF option is an integer. I'm going to set it to 1 by default. This is going to become a custom property that you will set from Archestra to determine which of the GIFs it's going to display. There's going to be a finite number of GIFs that are going to be imported in, and this can be as many as are needed. The next is a Boolean GIF diagnostics or GIF diag, and that you'll set it to true or false to display some diagnostic information in your control. So now that we have created these two variables, I'm going to create a block of code for the first custom property. And the first custom property is the GIF option property. And we're going to make it browsable so that Archestra can see it. It's going to be in a category called tutorial. The description is the GIF to use, and it's browsable. And then this is designer serialization visible. So all of these are pretty much standard for the property to make it visible in the designer. And we're going to do a test on this user control using a Windows form application. And that can pretty much eliminate the big majority of any issues we're going to have, because if the user control will work inside a Windows form application, it will work typically inside of the Archestra Galaxy, with a few exceptions. Now, this first is the actual GIF option is what's going to actually be visible, the property that'll actually be visible in Archestra. It'll be an integer, it'll be exposed on the client control. So this get is going to use the internal. The underscore GIF option is our internal variable. The set is, again, now in set, this is the interface that allows us to communicate to and from Archestra. So the get method gets the value from Archestra. The set sets our internal value based on a change from Archestra. So this choose GIF is another method that we're going to create that actually goes and does the choosing. So before we do that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and import the GIFs that I want to use for this project. So here you go to GIF Animator. Actually, no, the better way to do this to import these guys is to go to the properties of our picture box and click on image, the little ellipsis here, the 3 dots, and now we'll see where we can actually import this. So let's go and grab some GIFs. I believe I have those in my projects folder. GIF Animator, there they are. Okay, so there's 3 different ones. Let's go ahead and grab those and put them in. Flower, a large bar, and a large petal. Now you can create these GIFs there's a number of websites that allow you to create GIFs. I'll show you the one that I used. So you hit OK. And now when I go back to the Solution Explorer, I see under Resources tab, under the Resources folder, internal to the project, I have the flower, the large bar, and the large petal GIF that have been imported. So here's a website this is a website that you can use to generate GIFs. This is ajaxload.info. These are free. You basically pick which one you want. There's a whole list of them here, and you just select it, and you can set your color to whatever you want. And then generate it. And then here you have it, and you hit download. And then you can just rename it. I'll call this the blue flower. Let's copy it, put it in the same location that I had the others. Actually, that should be blue petal. So we're going to rename that to match. There's blue petal. Now if I want to put that into my project, just go back over here, go to the properties again for this guy. There you go. And now he's another option. And there he is, blue petal. Okay, now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this a little bit, I'm gonna make it match the size. I'm gonna set the size mode from normal to stretch image. And then we're gonna do the anchor all the way around, all sides. But before we do that, just a second, we're gonna make, let's line it back up again, because I don't want it to be lopsided. Okay, so now what this should give me is an even distribution. And then we'll set the anchor to all four sides. And now, as we resize this, it should stretch it. There you go. Okay. So now we have established our default GIF. So let's go ahead and go back to the code. And now let's see, we're missing a choose GIF method. So let's go ahead and put that in there. And see, I've created this previously. I'm just going to paste it in and I'll go through it. So essentially, these red underlines means there's something missing. It's probably named differently or just doesn't exist. So we'll have to work on those. But first thing, so this will be my choose GIF method, and it's called with the I option, which is an internal integer variable for this method. And notice that when we call it, we pass in the returned value from Archestra. So this underscore GIF option actually gets pushed down into here. And this label diag display, okay, that's going to be a label that we're going to put on our control as it's a diagnostic. So let's see, what did we call it? So let's copy paste this. And then to the name, and we're gonna call it label diag display. And then I want to center this up a little bit. And what it's going to do whenever it's turned on is it's going to display whatever this I option value is. So it will display the current option in the user control internally. Now this has got to be the name of our GIF. So we'll need to go back here, and we named it PBX GIF, but it's capital GIF. So that needs to match. So you can see I'm using a simple switch statement off of the integer that's fed in from Archestra. If it's a 1, it'll load this image, the flower. If it's a 2, it'll load this image. If it's a 3, it'll load this image. You notice there's a pattern here. So I could actually just copy paste this whole pattern at the bottom and create a new one called 4, case 4. And it's going to be, we'll make it the blue petal. There you go. Now that we've completed that, the next thing we're going to do is add our second property. So the first property was the integer GIF option. The next property is going to be a Boolean GIF diagnostic. And what it does is it passes in a Boolean from Archestra and reads, so it interfaces to say the GIF diag, whether it's a Boolean and it's going to either be true or false. There's a set diag method that needs to be created. So we'll go here below where we put the choose GIF method. And notice these are private methods that are only called internally. And what this does is it sets the label that we created, diag display, to whatever the value of the visibility of that label is set to whatever the value is coming in from the Boolean. So if the visible is set, if the Boolean coming in is false, the visibility is going to be false. If the Boolean coming in is true, the visibility is going to be true. And finally, we're going to need to do on load. So when this thing first comes up, we're going to set our visibility to our default value, which will be false. So initially, the diagnostic will be invisible. So now that we've done this, we need to do a build. I'm going to build solution. It's succeeded. So now we have a DLL. So now that we have our DLL, we're going to create a Windows format. So I'm going to open up another instance of the Visual Studio 2017. Now this time I'm going to create a new project, but it's going to be a Windows Forms app. We're going to call it Test Tutorial GIF Animator. Okay, now we have a tab which has been created called Tutorial. Currently there's no user controls in this group. So now we're going to do a choose items. And if this tab doesn't exist, all you have to do is do add tab. But I've already added it. So I'm going to go here, choose items. And now I'm going to browse to the location where my DLL is. And that's going to be in the C drive under users, my user, source, repository, and we're looking for the GIF tutorial GIF animator. There it is, tutorial GIF animator. We're going to go in there, go to the binary file, the debug file. There's the, so we're going to double click that, hit OK. And now you'll notice that under tutorial, we now have our tutorial GIF animator. So we just drag that in and set it to whatever size you want. So as you can see, there's our label. Now if we go to properties, there they are, GIF diagnostic and GIF option. Okay, so the default is false and 1, which we set in our control. So now that I have my control, I'm going to do some things to test this. Now, the first thing I want to do is set up the defaults on this side whenever I hit load. So we're going to go to our triggers and I'm going to look for form load. So we'll double click in there. And now these are things that are going to happen when the form loads. Now here's where I can set my default on the, if I don't want the default of 1, I could set it to something else. So we're going to do tutorial GIF animator dot, and then we'll go to our option. And in this case, I'm going to set it to 2 because I don't want to use 1 for whatever reason. And then the other one, we'll see there's only 2 properties in this project. The other one is the diag. And we used GIF in front of them so that we could actually find them quickly. So I'm going to set this to false so that I know it's going to be not going to be visible, and I know that the option is going to be 2. Now the next thing is we'll go back here, we're going to add some buttons, and this is just test, so you don't have to go crazy on it, but so I'm not even going to change the text on this thing. So what these are going to do, if you double click this, it'll actually generate your code, your click code. And we're going to set the option. So this first one would be 1. Let's go ahead and put 4 buttons out there because we have 4 GIFs, and then I'm going to put another button out there to turn the diag off and on. Okay, so then go here, and I can just take a shortcut. I can copy paste this, put a 2 in there. Three, so button 4 will do 4. So what we have is button 1 does GIF 1, button 2 goes GIF 2, and so on. We have all 4 GIFs represented. Now on button 5, I'm going to put some code in there to essentially make this a toggle. So I'll make those names match what we have in this project. And now we should be ready to test. So we'll go here and now we'll just click start to run the project. And you see here's our running project. It's actually running on 2. There is no diagnostic visible. As we change the buttons, we'll get the different GIFs. Notice when I created this GIF, I didn't set the background to transparent, and so it's showing its white background. Obviously, it's more desirable to have the background transparent. That was the setting that needed to happen whenever I created the GIF. And then here's where we will set our diagnostic. You can see now, you can see the number of the GIF. Okay, so that concludes the test. Now we're going to bring it into Archestra. Okay, so now that we're in Archestra, I'm going to jump ahead on you. I actually created a tutorial 4 that has the graphic. I'm going to just step through this. So essentially, to get a client control imported, you just go Galaxy import client control, and you browse to wherever the location is for your DLL, which the same thing, the same exact process that we did when we created the Windows format. That comes in, and you'll see it now as a client control. Then you can go to the graphic, and I've already imported it, but you would go here, and then you would look for, there's GIF Animator. I would just drop that, select it and drop it, which is what I did here. And now you notice it says, now we can see here under tutorial, we have our 2 options, GIF diagnostic, GIF option. Under button 1, I'm just going to set button 1 up as an animation script that sets it to the number of our option. In this case, it'll be 1, 2, 3, and then here it's a Boolean and it's going to be toggle to the GIF diagnostic. So clicking button 4 does the toggle. And now this version of it is my original version. It doesn't have the blue pedal, so this is the only difference. Okay, so now that I have imported my GIF Animator control, I've created a graphic, I'm going to need a view app to display that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new template, and we're going to call it tutorial 4. And it's got me a red X on there, which means it needs a new so we're going to create a new instance. And when it comes up, we're going to create a test screen. So a new window, we're going to call it tutorial 4. It's just for test anyway. And now we're going to import that graphic that we created. Okay. Just close that up. And we're going to create an instance of it. And we're going to bring that down to the view engine on the GR and deploy it. Okay, so now that it's finished deploying, I'm going to run the app manager. Go to tutorial 4, run it. Pick the screen, and there we go. Now what's interesting is to see that the background in Archestra is going to be white, so it's not recognizing the transparent background. That's something you might want to take into consideration. Then when we build the client control, we can make the background match the screen color here. There's ways around that. So, but you can see it works exactly the same way as it did. We turn this off and on. And that concludes this tutorial. I hope it's been helpful.
Thanks for giving me your time. I hope this has cleared up any misconceptions you may have had about templates, objects, object instances. If you want to learn more, you can head on over to orchestrabasics.teachable.com or just orchestrabasics.com. And I have a featured course, Introduction to Archestra Programming, where I actually go into some detail about building a galaxy and creating some user-defined objects to communicate with .NET system environment variables, both with native scripts and custom scripts. So I hope you enjoyed this brief tutorial, and if you'd like more information, head on over there and enroll and sign up for the course. Thanks, and if you like this, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up, or any comments that you may have regarding this course or this tutorial. Thanks. So long.